What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so this is a video request from one of my subscribers, and it's a little bit different. He wanted me to talk about my favorite comic book story or storyline. Now, I have to admit something. Although I am a fan of the Marvel comic universe or the MCU, and I am a fan of the old X-Men comic, the old X-Men cartoon series. Excuse me. I'm a fan of Superman, Batman. Um, I'm a fan of the Avengers. I'm a fan of a lot of the comic book affiliated cartoons and movies that have come out over the last several decades. I can't say that I was a connoisseur of comic books. Like, I didn't read a lot of them growing up. For some reason, I was reading more like I was more into like reading. I know it's gonna sound weird, but Heathcliff comic books or Garfield comic books. Charlie Brown comic strips, and I don't know. Like I did read some, but I was more of a fan of the cartoons and Spider-Man, the animated series. And you get it, the Justice League, but there is one comic strip tale that I love because it includes a variation of one of my favorite comic book characters, Logan, aka the Wolverine. And it's Old Man Logan. Now, if you watch the recent Deadpool and Wolverine movie, Hugh Jackman, whose birthday is today, happy 56th birthday, he made a cameo as Old Man Logan when Deadpool was going through the different worlds, different worlds, I guess the different Earths, and encountering different variations of Wolverine / Logan. Remember, Logan, Old Man Logan was sitting in a chair and he shot Deadpool. In this variation of Logan, and he's generally specifically called Logan because this variation of Wolverine / Logan encountered a significant trauma, which led to him abandoning the Wolverine persona and eschewing violence altogether. So what happens is this is an older Logan. This is a Logan who has reached a certain age where his healing factor no longer is working as well. It works, but it's slowed down. It's not as dormant as, say, in the movie Logan, but it is slowed down a bit. And because it's slowed down a bit, it's allowed his body to start aging more. So he looks physically like a man that's probably in his late 50s, I guess, and no longer like a man in his 30s or 40s. But what happened was, well, I'll talk about that later on. So this is an older Wolverine / Logan who has a family, and he has children, and he lives in a world that has been overtaken by villains, supervillains, and in particular, in the United States, the supervillains have different sections that they have ruled over ever since they took over. I think the main guy generally is seen as Red Skull, who I think is criminally underrated and underused in the MCU movie universe. Red Skull is, I guess, it calls himself the president. I think he dwells in the Well House, or what's left of the White House. Excuse me, I said Well House. What's left of the White House. I think Magneto had a section, but I think Magneto was overthrown by was overthrown by somebody. Let me look it up, see if I can find it. Yeah, he was overthrown by a new kingpin. Um, Dr. Doom has a section of the country. Abomination had a section of the country, but he was overtaken by Hulk, who, as he grew older, the gamma poisoning in his brain, well, throughout his body, I guess, uh, caused him to generally go insane, almost as if the gamma radiation acted as almost like a form of syphilis, and it eventually caused him to lose his mind to a certain extent and become evil, demented, I say. It also got him to the point where he had super strength even in his human form, whereas we know in most incarnations in human form, Bruce Banner uh, only has immense super strength when he's Hulk or turning into Hulk. Um, so anyway, Wolverine lives in the section where Hulk overrules or rules over, and Hulk rules with She-Hulk, and they have become basically inbred hillbillies who had, well, yeah, I guess that's the right term to use. Inbred hillbillies who have children, because remember, Hulk and She-Hulk are cousins, but in this version of them, they had a family, and the kids are evil, and they have the same gamma radiation, which causes them to look like the Hulk. And I think with them, they're always in Hulk form, if I'm not mistaken. So anyway, they're like a evil gang slash mafia, and the people who live in their territory, they're expected to kick up rent. And if you don't kick up rent, not only do you get kicked out, but they will cause harm to you, serious bodily harm. So Wolverine and his family owe rent. So I think what happens, if I remember correctly, Hawkeye, from the Avengers movies, he's an old man now. I think he wants Wolverine to travel with him to DC to give some people something that he had. It's never said at first what it really is. Wolverine assumes that it's drugs. But Hawkeye is supposed to get some money for this, like a shit ton of money. So Wolverine, needing the money, goes with him on their adventure, because I think it's implied that they're in California, or it was California. So they got to travel 3,000 miles. So it's going to take them several days to go from California to Washington D.C. And they encounter different dangers or troubles or what's what I'm looking for? Not adventures, but dangers, I guess, encounters. But Wolverine has vowed not to display violence. He vowed not to unsheath his claws. And it comes from the fact that when you do a flashback, it shows that on the night that the supervillains took over, they played a cruel trick on Logan. Knowing that Logan was the guy that was the biggest danger due to his healing factor, they had Mysterio use his powers and create an illusion, whereas Logan saw the fellow X-Men as enemies. And he couldn't locate in his mind the X-Men, so he's seeing the mansion, the X-Men mansion or home, whatever, being overrun by what he sees as the enemy. And he's trying to protect the kids, so he's using lethal force. Unbeknownst to him, he's killing other X-Men. So when the illusion is lifted and he sees what he did, he goes into complete histrionics and shock, to the point where he's so I don't know what the word to use. Devastated, uh, distraught. Uh, he's so emotionally unhinged by what he did that he jumped in front of a train, thinking that, look, I know I can't die, but I need to kill myself temporarily because I shouldn't have said that. Unalive myself temporarily because of what I just did. So he gets hit by a train, which temporarily, you know, takes him out. But his healing factor brings him back. But in his mind, that symbolically gets rid of Wolverine. And so there is what the backstory to that. That's why he does not, at this point in time, want to show any type of. He's a pacifist. Basically, coming to the conclusion that every time he unsheaths his claws, nothing but bad happens. So this is the thing. When they get to DC, it turns out that I think Hawkeye had super super soldier serum. Turns out that these people that he thought he was going to create some vigilante army with were undercover shield agents, who of course work under, in this situation, Red Skull. So they shoot and unalive Hawkeye and presumably Wolverine, but Wolverine wakes back up. This takes longer. So then he battles Red Skull, but of course he doesn't unsheath his claws. But ultimately, he does use lethal force against Red Skull and takes um, Captain America's shield and decapitates Red Skull. Oh yeah, sidebar. Most of the superheroes were annihilated that day when the supervillains came together and attacked them all. Because when you really look at the MCU, there are more villains than superheroes. So altogether, they were able to rather easily defeat the heroes. It's just that they never come together for any strategic reason and any other storyline. But I think they got rid of all of them. Man. I think they took out all of the characters, man. I think Captain America, I want to say Thor. They took out everybody. Iron Man, they killed them all. So eventually, Wolverine/Logan comes back to his home to find out that his family had been brutally murdered. Comes to find out that the Hulk family, they just got tired of waiting. They got tired of waiting. And also, presumably from the storyline, Hulk did it out of spite because he wanted Wolverine to fight him. Like it was a sadistic maneuver to get Wolverine/Logan to come out of retirement and give him a quote unquote good fight, which works because then Logan unsheathed his claws for the first time in probably, I don't know at that point, decades. And he first hunts and kills Hulk's kids. Then he comes after Hulk, who in his human form who appears to be an elderly man. Like he looks to be a man like 80 something, but he's surprisingly agile and is extremely strong. And when he becomes Hulk, when he's fighting Wolverine/Logan, he turns into a monstrously huge, ogreish version of Hulk. And by this point in time, Hulk has become, this is another thing I forgot to mention. By this point in time, Hulk had become a cannibal. She-Hulk was one too, and his kids. They not only, killed people, but they ate their remains. They did it with Wolverine's family, though. So he easily defeats Wolverine/Logan and eats him. Several hours later, Hulk is having and starts having intense stomach pains. What Hulk didn't realize was Wolverine's healing factor, though it is suppressed a bit, or should I say weakened a bit, it still works. So, he instead of slowly burning and being broken down by Hulk's stomach acids, Wolverine is actually regenerating inside of Hulk's body, and he burst out of his back, if I remember the comic strip correctly, killing Hulk. So, with his revenge completed, he takes Hulk's surviving child, who's a baby, and he leaves. He has no reason to stay there. His family has been slaughtered. And presumably, I think Wolverine / Logan goes on an excursion or a trip or a journey to team up with other individuals who are, former heroes or could be potential heroes. And they form up a team to try to fight against the evil that had taken over the country. So that's my favorite MCU storyline, Old Man Logan. By the way, I hope that Hugh Jackman comes back one last time and plays Old Man Logan. Now, you could argue he kind of did that with the Logan movie, but no, I would love to see Hugh Jackman one final time. And it's age appropriate because he's older. He's 56 now, so he's the perfect age to play him. Now, he may be tired of playing Wolverine Logan, and it has to be somewhat excruciating getting into shape, but you don't have to be that in shape to play this version of Logan. He's a perfect age. He can show his gray hair. And I think it'll be a great movie if it's done correctly. If it's done the Ryan Reynolds way and you stay faithful as much as you can to the comic strip, this could be a great, great movie. There's great potential there. I guess I should talk about my love for Apocalypse. That comes from the cartoon. I was thoroughly disappointed in that movie that came out back in 2015. You don't have a 5'9" actor play Apocalypse. You have to have someone who has a presence. You can't have a guy who's a goddamn, a welterweight play Apocalypse. You just can't, man. So I am heartened by the fact that if they do reintroduce the Apocalypse character, they're thinking about having The Rock play him. Now, I don't know if The Rock has the right voice, but then again, they could just use computer modulators to change his voice to sound more dark, more deeper and more aged and more sinister, or they could use me. I am the rocks of the eternal shore. They could use me. But he has the perfect physical stature to play him. I think he's 6'4". He wears the right footwear. He's boosted to 6'6". Because even when Apocalypse is in his normal size, he still is a tall guy. He looks to be like around 6'7", 6'8", when he's not, manipulating his molecular structure and getting bigger. But you need a presence to play Apocalypse. So, anyway, what you guys think about this?